you.
Good to meet you too. Well, we'll go over the basics once more then. What year did your dad move to the Lawndale-Gardena area?
My dad came there in 1904 and built a home on what is now, was Amestoy at the time, was Cypress at the time, and is now Crenshaw. And between what was then Rosecrans and Compton
Boulevard, and now Marine.
Yeah,
right.
And now it's Marine.
Right. So your family was there before the Bodgers were there?
Yeah, we were there shortly before they were. Then they moved in.
In the same year?
In the same year.
And your farm, or your farmhouse, was right on the west side of now Crenshaw. And
right.
The farm went as far as just the other side of the Dominguez Channel, which was just a ditch back then.
That's right.
And what you were telling me about how you used to cross the ditch?
Well, we had cows, and we used to sell milk to some German families that lived on the corner of Rosecrans and must have been Yukon, which is now. And so we used to have to take the milk over every night, and when there was water in the ditch, because it was all sewer water from Los Angeles, that's right. What it was. Why, we couldn't cross it, otherwise we would just walk down in the ditch and go across. So Dad took a great big plank and put it across, so we had a walk to go across. But then he also had to build a bridge over another section of it, because part of our field was on one side of the ditch and one side was the other.
And part of that field on the other side of the ditch would be where the Bodger Park is now, wouldn't it?
It must be, because the park wasn't there, of course, after we moved out.
And the farm would have went about as far as what is now Yukon. So where the Roosevelt School is now is where your father did his farming.
Evidently, because if that Yukon Street is through there, that was a row of eucalyptus trees dividing Bodgers from our property.
That's right.
Because we used to sit underneath there and eat our lunch when I worked there.
So you were eating lunch on that school ground before it was a school ground. Way back then. So how many acres would you say that was about that your dad farmed there?
I think it was what they call 160 square.
Oh, okay.
And then another 160 was on the other side, and that was all Japanese farms.
Right.
And then Bodgers had both sections. They had 160 on one side of Compton, and they had both sides.
All right, all the way to Manhattan Beach Boulevard.
They had all the way to Manhattan.
Now, what did your dad grow? You said it was barley?
Barley hay.
Barley hay.
At that time, there was an awful lot of Japanese farmers there. Practically all around us was Japanese farmers. And they had horses. And none of them drove tractors, and they all had horses. So, and Dad seemed to have, we used to stack our hay and let it more or less
dry,
ferment or something, and then the balers would come in and bale. And the horses would all eat our hay better than another competitor right down the street from us.
That's
so
good.
they used to always buy our hay, so we had a pretty good.
So your dad had his own business, and he never worked directly for Mr. Bodger, but you worked for the Bodger.
Just I and my sisters.
And your sisters. And what did you do there for the Bodgers?
Well, what I did was, when I was in Gardena, I was just learning there, and I packaged the seeds. We used to have to weigh it, put it in little linen bags, and then you had a little wire tire. We used to tie it. So you had to, if the person ordered a quarter pound of sweet peas, such and such a color, we had to weigh it out and tie it up.
So they were bigger bags. They weren't like a little seed packet today.
Some of them were just, if they only wanted a pound or something, they're little. But if they wanted 150 pounds of sweet peas, was a big sack.
But I mean, it wouldn't have been like those little paper envelopes
Oh,
that you
no,
buy
no,
now.
no,
It would have
not,
been
no,
bigger.
they were,
Right.
we were wholesalers.
Wholesaler. Okay.
We weren't retailers.
Mhm.
You never saw Bodger's name on a packet.
Because it would go to a different
It
distributor.
would go to like Germain's brought from us, Agler and Musser,
Okay.
and all the big, all the little seed stores would buy from us, and then they put their own name on it.
I see. Do you think those seeds, did they just go to places in America, or did they go to other countries as well?
Oh no, our biggest, we've sent 40% of our business was to England.
Ah.
They bought the most sweet peas. That's what they were famous for.
So seed grown on that place where the school is now went all over the world. And to
All
England and
over the
other
world.
places.
We shipped to Spain, every place you could think of.
Wow. How much money did you make back then? How much were the wages?
When I started to work there, and I got more than most men, was $80 a month. They paid us by the month.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah, we did pretty good at $80 a month. And then maybe after 5 years I got 100. And then up to 125 a month for a long, long time. They didn't raise very often.
Yeah.
So you worked under those conditions and I retired in 1967. So when I retired, I wasn't making very much yet
Right.
compared to what people are making today.
That's right. That's right.
So, but then you could get a loaf of bread for a nickel too.
Yeah, that's true. How many different colors do you think were the flowers, the sweet pea flowers? How many different color varieties?
Well, see, Burpee and Burpee was another good. Denham was another, and everyone perfected. They pollinize them and make different colors, and then they would name it their color. So there was I would say 200 colors in sweet peas, but every year I used to have to go up. Walter Bodger used to take two of us girls up to Lompoc, and we used to have to walk the fields, especially me, because I was doing most of the filling of the orders, to compare different, like with Burpee. Now, for instance, a dark blue, he might have named his flagship. Ours might have been Purple Glow, and somebody else's might have been Midnight Sun on a purple sweet pea.
Just a different name at the same seed.
But practically identically the same color.
Oh, I see.
So I had to find out how close they were to each other.
Right.
So that I substituted a lot.
I see. In the book that Louise wrote, there was a mention of a time when they used to hear coyotes down there in the ditch. Did you ever hear them?
Oh, they used to get our chickens.
The coyotes did.
Oh yes, because our chickens run wild.
Uh-huh.
And our turkeys. And you'd hear them at night. They would come up out of the ditch. Oh yeah, they were right at our back door practically, our coyotes.
My grandmother mentioned hearing the coyotes and seeing them come from Palos Verdes all the way to the Baldwin Hills.
Yeah.
So did anybody have to go out and drive them off or shoot at them?
No, we just let them howl and
Yeah.
get what chickens they could. We tried to,
There was enough birds there to
yeah,
still
we would
have
try
some.
to, we started finally fencing it up more than,
Right.
otherwise it used to, but the turkeys used to take their nest and go out into the tomato fields of the Japanese fields across the street.
Okay.
And there's where they had no protection out there.
Right. Right.
So.
Do you remember any other animals like foxes or weasels or any other predators? that
No,
were
we
still
never.
running
We
around?
didn't have any of those. The coyotes was the only thing we had to bother with.
You remember seeing snakes out there in the property?
Oh, no snakes. Not in the barley fields. You wouldn't see snakes. But coming home from school, I saw a big old black snake one time right on the road. Great big one.
So they would have been there at that time.
Yeah.
What
but
about other birds like hawks and owls?
We had
and
hawks that
plovers?
would get our chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And but other than that, we didn't have any other wild animals.
Not too many other worries then. What other animals besides the birds and the cows? Were there anything, goats and pigs and things like that?
We had pigs. Dad had, I think, 18 head of horses. We had 3 buggy horses that we took to school. We had a buggy we took back and forth to school.
Mm-hmm.
And we had cows and pigs, ducks, geese, chickens. And that was it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you went to the Lawndale, it was then the Lawndale Grammar School.
Yeah,
where
just a little school.
Just a little wooden house there.
Yeah.
What years were those that you went there?
It must have been about 1918 or
Uh-huh.
16 or 18. I was just maybe 8 years old or something like that.
And you used to go up on the horse. You didn't have to walk all that way?
I walked that way
Oh, you
over
did?
there.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, I don't remember taking the horse and buggy over there.
Mm. Did you walk with your brothers and sisters and other kids?
No, this was this little girlfriend of mine, maybe the little German girl that was on our ranch there, lived on the corner. She might have went with me, and we both walked over there.
Mm-hmm.
But we used to walk, and we had to walk 3 miles to school, and I thought nothing about it. When they took the wood grove down, we had to quit using our horses.
Mm.
So that was a 3-mile walk to school.
And what about on those rainy days when those big lakes were out there in the fields? You had to kind of dodge around those?
Well, they were below, so then that was when the ditch overflowed.
Ah.
That came within a block of our property.
Oh, from flooding?
Yeah. Because the boys took me down, my brothers took me, and we were all wading down there, but they left me in the wheelbarrow, and when the water, was waving and up, and I kept saying, "It's taking me away, I'm going to drown." And I started screaming, and my brother said, "Oh, shut up, Joe, it's not hurting you, you'll be all right." And I said there, I would swear that water was taking me out down to the river.
In the wheelbarrow. So the wheelbarrow would have been like a little boat.
There was a row of trees there, and the ground was real smooth where this water used to come up. But there was trapdoor spiders there.
Oh.
And us kids used to go down there and scratch the lids of that trapdoor spider until they would come up and get hold of it. Then we'd take a shovel and dig underneath, and then we'd put it in a jar and take it to school to show what we caught.
Yeah.
But they were trapdoor spiders.
Yeah.
They were big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still up in the Santa Monica Mountains. There's still a few, but not in Lawndale anymore.
No, but that was where those trees were. There was.
Yeah.
We used to hunt for them because you could tell they had a little sort of silken cap on the top of them.
Right, like a little covering.
Covering.
Yeah. Did you ever see a lot of frogs and toads and things? Probably was a lot of those in the rainy months.
Well, yeah, we got toads we had.
Mm-hmm.
But they were mainly over where the Japanese watered more, where there was more depth.
Okay.
See, with the barley hay, it was just dry, what you call dry farming, and we didn't water.
Right, there was no irrigation. What did you and the other kids do to amuse yourselves on the weekends and holidays and stuff?
Well, our ranch, what Dad built, we had the corrals on one side and the house and the barns were across the back. And it was like a great big square horseshoe. And Dad put us up a big floodlight on the granary. And one of our uncles came from the east, and he whittled a bat out of a piece of 2x4, and the bodger used to come over, and we used to play baseball out there at night.
In the field.
Or run sheep run and catch the blue bottle and stuff like that.
Games the kids played in those days.
In those days.
I'll be darned.
So that's what Mrs. Bodger would call over and say, "You send those children home." And Mother kept calling out, "Your mother said you'd better get home, children." And all she had to say was, "Your dad just called, you'd better go home." And they were out of there so fast it wasn't even funny. But
now, would that have been a time when you would have had a telephone there?
Oh, we didn't have lights for years. electricity.
That didn't come in until maybe the early 20s or the
Well,
late teens.
no plumbing,
Just an outhouse.
just an outhouse.
And your water was a well?
My mother never knew, but after she left Michigan, never knew of a inside bathroom.
I'll be darned.
Both ranches that we lived on
I'll be darned.
was outside plumbing.
What did you have as far as a water supply? Was it a well or was it
Well,
piped in?
we had a cistern that we got water from a pump that came over and would go into the cistern, and we'd pump it out of the cistern.
That's just like my house was, right? I imagine when you were walking to school, you must have passed by my old house a few times when you were a kid. Whether you remember that or not, I don't know. But
You didn't live around there though, did you?
it was there in 1909 on Prairie. So it would have been there by the time you were 8 years old and going to school. You would have walked by it, I imagine, a few times. It's been an old red house on Prairie.
See, I didn't go that way. We didn't go that way. We never went towards Prairie.
Oh.
We went to Monte Grammar School, which was
Okay.
on Palm Street in Monte.
So it wasn't until
Yeah,
you were a little older when you went to the Lawndale School.
I never went to only to the grammar school when I was just a kid.
Okay. It was a short time that you went there.
Oh, I only went over there once somebody was in a play, and we wanted to see this play. They put on a little Christmas play. It was Christmas time.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you were attending at that school.
No.
You just visited it.
I went, for school, we went to Monte Grammar School to the 7th grade.
Mhm.
And when you graduated from the 7th grade, then they walked us over to the high school. We started the 8th grade at the Gardena High School.
Okay.
And that we all graduated the same way, from the 7th there and to the 8th in Gardena.
Okay, so it was just visiting at the other school. I see. Joe, something you told me about was an old tractor that the Bodgers used on the farm that was used later for when the Olympics first came to Los Angeles.
It was the biggest caterpillar that was in the state of California, I think. They needed it to break up the adobe clods on the ranch they had there in Gardena. That's why my dad says they'll never grow sweet peas there, because they can't break up those clods adobe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got this great big tractor. They even had a special rake made, or disc made, that had spikes on it to try to break them up. It still didn't break up those great big clods of adobe. So that's why they finally gave up growing sweet peas in Gardena and moved to Lompoc. But they had some up there in the first place, but
You
they
get a less heavy soil.
that was better up there. So they just gave up raising sweet peas down there. But then the big old caterpillar sit there, and when they were building the Coliseum, there wasn't a tractor big enough to dig down in there to get the dirt. So they drove that tractor from the Bodger Ranch to the Coliseum to dig the hole for the Coliseum. And when the Coliseum was not finished, no chairs or enough, but they were still building it. It was right after World War I. Why, they had a sham battle there where they had tanks and guns and everything. And they gave us all tickets to go see it, because it cost you to go see it. Because we were part of getting the tractor down there. And it was just beautiful. And then up on the top they had a flower show, and everybody brought in. Bodgers had the little wee kirk of the heather.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a cute little replica of something from England.
I'll be.
So those are the good old days.
I'll say. Wish I saw them. Now, you left the Gardena Lawndale area, you said it was 1926?
1926 I moved to El Monte.
Did your father stay, though, on his ranch there, or what was going on there?
See, must have been about 1920, 1919 or 1920, we had the biggest yield of barley hay we'd ever had. Our barns were stacked full, and it was either a tramp that was sleeping there, it caught fire, or Dad thinks it might have been combustion, because there was so much hay in there.
Just fermented and got hot.
It fermented and burst into flame. Well, that was about midnight at night. So that barn burnt down. And, well then, rather than build a new barn there, just 1.5 miles from there, or about a mile, the Harris Ranch, they had a big barn and they had horses and everything, but they were giving up farming. So we went over and rented that place. So we moved away from Crenshaw and moved over there. And there's where we moved over there. My grandmother was with us at the time. She died in 1924. And we were there, we must have moved over there about 1920.
Okay.
And,
did your dad then rent out the old house on
well, Dad never owned that property. My dad and mother were married in Michigan, and he took half of his, there was 2 boys, Uncle Henry and Dad, and they split the property. Dad took his and money and gave him the ranch there, and he moved to Glen Rock, Wyoming. He wanted to get to California. Well, they got to Glen Rock, Wyoming, and he went into work at the coal mines there. He met a man there that had a lot of money that lived next door to him, and he had this ranch in Gardena. And he knew Dad was a farmer. He left Michigan as a farmer. He talked him into moving to California and taking over that place and growing on a share basis.
Okay.
So we actually never owned it. We
Like
just,
on a lease.
whatever we leased it. We leased it and gave him so much of the profit each year.
I didn't understand. I see.
That's the way we worked it. Well, then all we had to do was walk away and leave it, you know.
Okay. Okay.
And then it's when he started selling it out to real estate for houses and stuff.
But he would have technically owned the house, but he would have had to move the house.
Well, yeah, he had bought the house and everything, yeah.
Right.
So the house was still there.
I see. And that's why it was there until it was finally torn down about 15 years ago or so. Okay.
I don't know.
Amazing.
I don't know who took over the estate after that, because the Higgins didn't have any children, and he lived in Glen Rock, Wyoming. We used to store his old Wilton 6. That's where we had quite a few sheds, and the people from the east would come out. They'd buy a car and they'd use it all summer there, and then they would store it at our place. And my brothers used to take the blocks out from underneath the wheels of the old had a Maxwell there, and we'd drive it back and forth to school after we couldn't use the. He'd disconnect this mileage and take it off the blocks, and we drove it back and forth to school. Oh, that's how we got by it. But the Winton Silk, the big old, we had a Wilton 6. It was a big old touring car with the brass headlights and everything.
Yeah.
Well, after the Higgins died and nobody wanted the car, Mother sold it to somebody, traded it to somebody for a cow. We got the cow and they got the car.
That's been a good deal, I guess.
Things went in those days.
Yeah. Well, I think there might be a minute of tape. I don't know how much more. Is there anything you'd like to say to the kids if it's still running? If they're watching this tape right now?
Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed it. You got a little bit out of this. We really had fun when we lived down there. I hope you're having as much fun as we did, but we really enjoyed Gardena when we lived down there. But we had a good time. We played ball with all the Japanese children, and they were so good to us, always giving us oranges and giving us, instead of just a little gift, they'd bring you a sack of oranges, a sack of potatoes, and things like that for Christmas.
That's what they did with our family too. It was always giving, giving, giving with produce.
No. Or tea cakes. We got an awful lot of tea cakes. The little Japanese built tea cakes.
Mm-hmm.
One time they gave us a lobster, a live lobster. Mother didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know what to do with it. We had to take it out and bury it. We didn't know what to do with it.
Didn't know how to cook it.
It was alive too.
Yeah. Oh boy.
That was one of the times
Uh-huh.
we didn't know what to do with something. But enjoy your childhood.